Hello and welcome to Deep Dive. I'm Mitali Mukherjee. Today marks 100 days of the Taliban-led regime in Afghanistan, with no clear roadmap either in terms of reinstatement of rights, economic recovery, or what happens to security around the geographical region. The Taliban regime at this point has not been recognized by any other country. Does it run the risk of sliding back to the 90s, where it was seen and recognized only by three countries? More importantly, what of the people in Afghanistan and what are their most immediate challenges and hurdles at this point? Joining me to talk about all of that is former Afghanistan MP Shukria Barakzai, who herself had a very dramatic escape from the country a few months back. Thank you for taking the time out and speaking with me, Shukriya. I can imagine that it's not been an easy couple of months from August when you yourself made quite a dramatic move out from the city. I think the question on everyone's minds right now is what is the situation in the cities? What do you hear from family and friends?
Well, thank you for the opportunity and letting me to share again the sad story of the struggle, sacrifice, the nation that been, unfortunately, in the last 4.5 decades was been suffering for no reason. The situation is extreme poverty. This is clear. A huge humanitarian crisis, a clear discrimination when it comes gender-based discrimination, the lack in the of rule of law, unfortunately, suicide, lack of security, target killing, and women's are target, ex-government employees are being target, injustice, and the lack of common sense about the future of Afghanistan, and most important, unlegitimate regime for the time is functioning in Afghanistan.
Yes.
So I think it could be worse than that, where a country like a couple of months ago was a country with a state that can perform, represent Afghanistan, but right now it's a playground for all international terrorist networks, and they are fighting.
Yeah. You know, there was a narrative around the time when when it became clear that the Taliban were going to take control of different cities and then of Kabul as well, Shukriya, that this is a Taliban 2.0, that it understands the difference of ruling differently and functioning differently. What seems very clear now, having seen all these days and months go by of their regime, what seems very clear in terms of what is exactly the same as it was for people who lived through this entire period in the 90s, and what is different, if anything at all?
Oh, everybody would say they changed. Yeah, Taliban changed from bad to worse. And during 90s, they were a little bit mature, unified group, where they were not been after wealth of people. They were not been after killing innocent people for no reason. They were not after lots of things that today they are. Today, it's a much worse version of Taliban that we are witnessed. It is Taliban plus Haqqani network, and Haqqani network is equal to Al-Qaeda. So now the status of Taliban is very clear. Before, they were been fighting at that time for reforms. But after that, they were been fighting for political power. Before, Taliban were claiming a very, let's say, Islamic, pure Islamic government, according to them, based on Sharia law. But today, there's no one, they are preaching about Sharia law, but they are not practicing the principle of Islam, which is the most important, is respecting human dignity. Before, they were saying that they are waiting for the right time to come and control everything in the entire geography, and then they will let women and girls to be educated. But right now they're controlling, but they are not fulfilling their promises, even international promises they made. I don't know why everybody was just saying that we've been prepared for the Taliban to come and take over. I would say if the people of Afghanistan was not been betrayed by international community, by their friends, by the Taliban, and by the weak government, I think we people, nation was able to manage ourselves to defeat Taliban. But lots of slogan was been made, lots of lobbying campaign was been made, lots of propaganda was there that they are not the old one. There will be a political settlement. There will be a peace. There will be a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire. There will be chance for women and girls to continue their way, and the structure of the government will remain. Maybe just the people will be changed. But right now, we don't have a legitimate government from one hand. On the other side, the lack of legitimacy, and it's just like a one-man show, where those men also are fighting among themselves. For instance, saying something when it comes to the media and international media and their press statement, they are very clear about everything. But when it comes to the practice, they are not really feeling themselves to maintain what they said on their promises, and to obey those rules that they should.
Sure. In fact, you mentioned about a recently concluded regional level talk that happened in India, Shukriya, that you felt quite disappointed and dejected that India had turned its back on Afghanistan in its darkest hour of need. Is that specifically to humanitarian assistance? In what way do you think Afghanistan feels betrayed or let down by India?
Yeah, it's my opinion. If I'm wrong, please correct me. We've been believing since so long India is Afghanistan friend. Afghanistan was in the front line when was a conflict between India and Pakistan. I remember how many Afghans lost their lives just because being nearby Indian consulate in different part of Afghanistan. How many buildings was been destroyed? Because those target wasn't Afghan, those targets was India. But people of Afghanistan dedicate their life to keep the areas safe and secure. And we do appreciate the struggle of, and of course, the support of India for their scholarship, for building dams in Afghanistan, for making a brighter future for the Afghans, and their aids and support. But something was really badly leaking, especially in the last few years. There was a political commitment and political will to be standing by Afghanistan. It's not only about money. It's not only about scholarship. It's not only about visas. When it comes to the political terminology, that we were been aiming India to be stand with the Afghans. What India politically, since they are right now in the United Nations Security Council, they are present there. They have a huge, big lobby group globally. They are member of Foreign Commonwealth. They are member of SARC. They are member of so other important organizations. How they affiliate, how they their power, how they raise their concerns about the peace agreement, and how they start and strategize their points of view with other like-minded countries to stop at least from somewhere. The Afghanistan shouldn't go age from one hand, or on the other side, when everybody was just struggling to find a safe passage out of Afghanistan, when everybody is just trying to reach Afghanistan. India is not our far neighbor. They are very close neighbor of Afghanistan. So I feel, to be honest, not only by my great Indian friends, but by European and Americans, that they betrayed, they used us.
Mm.
And because I think we do have the right to share our points of view.
Absolutely.
This silence from India, entire period of time, although I've been participating lots of, let's say, national TV debates in India, we've been raised our voice, but that was not enough. We know what is the Indian idea and their mindset about
Is it also
Afghanistan,
not
what
true?
we were been.
Yeah, I take your point. Is it also not true that for a country like India, it is now, with specific reference to humanitarian aid, there is now a level of stepping over some stumbling stones that they have to do in order to achieve that, because there is a sense that a lot of the humanitarian aid going into Afghanistan is being gatekept by Pakistan. For example, there's 50,000 tons of Indian wheat that needs to go into Afghanistan. There is a process of clearance which has been pending for 7 weeks now. So I completely take your point about how the immediate assistance was certainly left lacking. But do you feel as well this is now a unique challenge for Afghanistan, where there is this gatekeeping happening, at least in terms of putting in crucial food assistance or medical assistance, and that is making things doubly difficult for the region and for your country, of course.
We are not anymore as we was before. So I think we do have, there's a great investment from India in Chabahar. So at least they can use Charbahar port for that. The door of Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, in Iran is also. But what about air? What about the chartering few flights, at least for the sake of those medical needs, because the shortage of medicines and those medicines that we can find in the Afghan market, it's all not, how I could say, it's not standard. It's not the right one. It's just like a second, third, fake medicines, copy medicines.
Yeah.
So bad quality.
Yeah.
So what about, when bad time comes, when 98% of the Afghan population are facing starvation, lack of medicines, violence, humanitarian crisis in generally. So would you think that we shouldn't ask our friend, where are you? We had Afghanistan and India the experience of the who's closing the gates. I am aware. I am not in Afghanistan, but I am aware how much the Afghan goods was been stuck in the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Pakistan didn't let the Afghan goods to cross and get international market, which is India was historically the great market for Afghan goods. So I saw the pomegranate in Afghanistan, which is today cannot find international market. That's also damaging our economy. And I feel so pity for the people of Afghanistan. For instance, lobbying for every country to recognize the Taliban, but they are closing and keeping closed their borders. Mm-hmm. They are not even Afghan goods to be passed, but it's like they are covering their face, their dirty face, with a mask of friendship, even with the Taliban, which is, I'm sure, they betrayed the Taliban. Taliban has been made by Pakistan, of course, that's their factory. But even right now, it's very clear that they are making Taliban to not be there. Even they are not relying on them. So
Sure. I want to drill a bit deeper, Shukriya, on the situation within the country, because I think that's not getting as much attention as it should. For example, you mentioned poverty, but what seems to be coming out clearly is that over the next few months, there is an acute food crisis that is brewing. The director of the World Food Program actually said the next 6 months are going to be catastrophic. It is going to be hell on earth. For someone listening and watching, can you outline what it is that's happening right now in terms of food availability and how severe the crisis is?
Well, as I mentioned the starving.
Yeah.
Afghan nation is starving. The greatest starvation is one of the greatest challenge, which is they called food crisis. That food crisis is because we are not been a country which is our own product would be enough for the um, to be used. So we always been receiving, and export and import was always there. So which is right now there's no export, there's no import. So that's why we will face the shortage of foods from one hand. On the other side, the lack of buying of food. Nothing is for free. When people are losing their job, when the banks all are freeze, when the factories are stopping and they are not working, when there's no wealth, people cannot buy. Even the government announced they will not paying salary, and instead of the salary, they will give where people working with the government body, and instead of money, they will give wheat. So what they will do with all these wheat? Can they buy a credit card? No. Can they buy medicine? No. Can they buy water? No. Can they buy gas, fuel, electricity? No. Even with that wheat, they can buy just a simple like oil, like other things. No. So we are back in the Stone Age to exchange, but wheat to wheat, no one will going to do so. So, and unfortunately, since everything just happened suddenly, there's a lack of strategic storage as well, very clear, because no one was been prepared for such a trauma and such a chaos that happened in Afghanistan. And that's why I think the immediate need is to, for everything. I cannot say only food. I cannot say only wealth and treasure. I cannot say every single thing, which is bad need. We are dipped in a great amount of money for the electricity from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. We are facing the very complicated trade relation between one of the country, which is most important for the Afghan trade. It is Pakistan. They are not opening their door for the Afghan goods. And from the other side, of course, the fund was being freezed by United States. That was their money, obviously, but still that money was been at least for keeping Afghan's currency away from the inflation. So those things are putting hands together. And plus, when it comes to security, people are saying, well, at least now it's secure. No one is secure. Nobody's secure. And even just today, there was a two explosion in Kabul.
Mm.
It seems that scenario is going on.
Yeah, this is a vicious cycle that is presenting itself, is it not, Shukriya? And you've been a member of parliament, so you understand how politics and finance sit so closely. 75% of public funding, came via international assistance. Now that is on hold pending recognition. The recognition is on hold pending some kind of confirmation from the Taliban regime that the security concerns that either their immediate neighbors have or countries like the US have will be attended to. To your mind, politically, how do you see the next couple of months shaping up? Is there going to be more of this narrative from Taliban saying we've got the security risk in control, we've got the terrorist groups in control, or do you think it's going to keep clamping down on the people in terms of funding and aid just getting choked off?
For your good for information, the 25% of our GDP was been relying on the taxation.
Yeah.
Where there's no export import, there's no tax. So technically, we're out of everything. When it comes about the Taliban, of course they are claiming, but I don't know why the world don't want to understand they're just a militant group. They don't have a professional national and entire the Taliban body. They don't have the people which has been, technically having the experience of governance. Even they don't know what exactly politics is. When it comes to the security, they were very good to fight, not to defeat. It's two different things. Because if you want to make challenge, for instance, let me give you a very simple example. They are not building the builder. They are not the builders. They are not a civic engineer. They are not engineer. They just know how to destroy. And building, if you want to build a building, it will take a year, at least, minimum, like 5, 6, 7, 10 stories. But if you want to destroy it, it would take a minute. So they are the one that doing the 1-minute job, not the 1-year job. Is their experience. So how we should expect that even if they promise, even if they ignore, even if they say they are capable to do everything, are we blind? We cannot see what is exactly their experience in capacity to believe they are preaching? It's clear. They don't have the experience, capacity, and knowledge. What is politics? How governments are functioning? What is exactly the technical word? They don't know how to, just very simple thing. They don't know how to secure the borders. I don't know how they are coming and sitting. Oh, the only thing they are sitting, which is that's also sure how brain drain is among them, is they say, well, now Afghanistan is secure because the cause of security come and control the country. So if they say Afghanistan is secure now, I'm certain they were the cause, not the government. So when the cause was been replaced, of course it should be secure. But I'm surprised when the American was keeping talking for 3 years with the Taliban. They were aware about their capacity. Yeah. The United Nations was having constantly meeting with the Taliban before the collapse of Kabul. Before they knew what situation are they. When the Western country was chasing Taliban and inviting them in a good environment, when Russia, Iran, and etc. I don't know why today their eyes get open. They were like a totally blind. It was a bad love story between Taliban and international community. Because the lover was totally blind. They couldn't see. They give their heart and minds, wealth, treasure, reputation to the hands of someone, which is even they didn't open their eyes to see how they look like, what they are able to do.
Which brings me back to my original question, Shukriya. As you very eloquently pointed out, I think at the point when the Taliban began to take control, there was first a level of denial and then a high degree of shock at how fast it all collapsed, especially from the US government. Of course, neighboring countries were as well quite concerned about how things were decelerating. Given everything you've pointed out, how do you see the next few months moving politically? Because some of the countries have not recognized them, but they are choosing to engage with them, perhaps out of their own fears. How do you think this is going to move over the next few months for your country?
Well, it's elephant in the room. Denying them, it means we are denying a big elephant inside of the room. I think hold them accountable is the choice we have to make. I think international community. Recognition is too early, but being somehow engaged, at least for the sake of 35 million people, that they shouldn't die just because of the worst politician, and military in their country. Enough is enough. Nations shouldn't pay the price of others. Yeah. So I will, by my own understanding is there are some countries that they want to work close with the Taliban, and there are some organizations they love to work with the Taliban. And there are some countries, they don't have any observations. They just don't want to feel lonely for the recognition. For instance, for China, the human rights, women's rights, minorities' rights, democracy, how I'd say, legitimacy of Taliban is not really important. Chinese already been engaged. So, but why they don't want to recognize the Taliban? It's probably they feel that it's too early. They just want to go and suck the entire wealth, what they need, the resources, and they will.
Yeah, which brings me to the most tragic part, I think, of this entire situation, which is the treatment that has been meted out to the women, Shukriya. I mean, as we speak, and on the day we record this, it is day 61 of girls not having attended secondary school in Afghanistan. They are being denied the very right to study. Do you see it turning?
It should. It should. Taliban accept 1 year, like they can go higher grade. That's not the right decision for a student not being at the school, but they will have the privilege that, for instance, by terms of the year, so they will not miss the grade in anything without the exam. That's not the way. But I believe that at least this decision was been a sign that finally Taliban come on the knee and say, women, girls, you're exceptional, but I cannot trust them. I will wait for the summer or probably beginning March, what will be their next decision. They should let women and girls to go to school. But a greater challenge is there shouldn't be any excuse for the Taliban for keeping women indoor from the work and job, the government or non-governmental organization. So if they want, again, to fulfill their promise, they should let the female employees of the government to go and start back their job. That will may change a game, at least a little bit on the favor of Taliban. That will maybe the possibility that Taliban will may get a certain privilege, not probably recognition, some kind of support, largely, which is they are seeking for at the moment. But to be honest, it's really heartbroken. We are in the week that's activism for elimination of violence against women globally. And this is the very unique type of discrimination, which is globally we are being witnessed. I think in the history of human, it never happened such a type of discrimination as we women in Afghanistan, we are being witnessed now, just because of gender, just because they're women, just because they're girls, they can't go to school, they can't go to work. They're like a present, you know, they're treating like items, not like a human. And that's really hurting me. I know what is the feeling. I've been true to that feeling, and still I can feel it from bottom of my heart, when entire my body, what is that mean? Being discriminated, being eliminated, and being removed from whom you are, what is your gender, what was your struggle, just even not there counting as a citizen. It's really hurt. It's a very painful.
I feel and empathize with everything that the Afghani women and the girls are suffering through at this point, Shukriya. Just one final question. You know, for people who've lived in Afghanistan, I think it's also incredible in a sense how much you've lived through waves and waves of violence and waves of regime changes. There is just so much in the last couple of decades that's an ordinary Afghani has been witness to. what fills you with the most fear at this point? What are you most fearful of for your country?
I think my great fear is if we didn't, we have to learn lessons, and that's including Taliban. For how long we should let the country to be a great playground for everyone to come and play in our ground. My great fear is we shouldn't lose Afghanistan. We shouldn't let Afghanistan to be a safe net for international terrorist network or the how I could say a rented playground for big powers to play they want to. Because the complicity of Afghan geography, the strategic position of geopolitically, and extreme richness of the natural resources, and the danger of drugs and poppy cultivation, if all you put all together, it can be, if not in the right direction, it can be a big, big, big disaster globally. It will challenge, it will knock every single door by the name of extremism, by the name of drugs, by the name of terrorists, and by the name of probably more and more. So it is time for everyone to consider Afghanistan and the Afghan stories, not Afghan matter. It's the matter of everyone.
Shukriya, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with me. I think as we close this year, this will certainly be the biggest political and humanitarian crisis that the world has actually looked at in many years now. And I do hope, most importantly, that humanitarian aid and assistance reaches the people, because ultimately that's what it's about. It's about the people of Afghanistan. But thank you very much for taking time out and speaking with me today.
Get a sneak peek of exclusive content before everyone else for channel members only. Memberships start at ₹89. Hit the join button below.